This is the first of a most likely 3-part series. Brenda Starr Snouffer, then 32, is missing from Palm Harbor, Florida. Her last date of contact was Friday, April 21st, 1995, around 9:15 a.m. when she dropped off her 6-year-old daughter at elementary school. When school let out in the afternoon, her daughter stood there patiently waiting for her mother as she watched all the other children get on the bus, into cars, or walk home. Brenda never came. Has to be pretty traumatic for a 6-year-old. At the time of Brenda's disappearance, she was involved in a bitter custody and divorce with her husband. In addition, Brenda was scheduled to testify in an upcoming criminal trial. Brenda was seen driving a turquoise blue 1993 Mazda Protege, Florida license plate LEA14U. Her vehicle has never been recovered. The Pinellas County Sheriff's Office is investigating. They can be reached at 757-582-6200. There is one clearinghouse that has her missing date listed as April 2nd, 1995, but she spoke with her family on Easter, so I believe that date is wrong. Brenda's birth date is June 6th, 1962. At the time of this recording, she would be 60 years old. Her maiden name is Starr, Starr. Her husband was Scott Irvine Snouffer. Brenda was going to testify against him and his brother Stuart B. Snouffer in an automobile theft trial later in the year. Brenda told authorities that the brothers were running a chop shop which dismantles stolen vehicles to be sold for parts. Brenda and Scott were fighting for their daughter Mariel. Brenda stated she was terrified of Scott and that he had threatened her. On the same day as her disappearance, someone mailed threatening letters to her home and also to a friend's home in Ohio. Keep that in the back of your head. Mariel attended Highland Lakes Elementary in Palm Harbor. Mariel's teacher waited with her for 3 hours before she reported Brenda's absence to the authorities. Investigators immediately questioned Scott about Brenda's disappearance. He maintained his innocence and lawyered up. Scott continues to refuse to cooperate with authorities and has not been eliminated as a suspect. Welcome to Adventure Sphere. This channel is dedicated to missing people who are missing with a vehicle. In the process, we're creating a volunteer sonar search and recovery dive team to search for the people who are featured on our channel. Our services are free of charge. We ask you to consider subscribing, watch our content, and help spread awareness of our endeavor. They're all free, so why not? If you can donate a cup of coffee or two, we have links in our description box. If not, no worries. The places I'll mention are shared with my blessing, so Brenda can be reunited with her family, regardless who higher powers work through. The description box has our email address if you'd like to share insight on any cold case confidentially, know someone missing with a vehicle and would like them featured on our channel and searched for, or to donate equipment. The video of Google Earth has a measurement from a known precise location. This episode is going to focus on 3 precise locations, and then it goes out to possible search areas. We focus on bodies of water within 5 miles of their home, their last known location, and within 5 miles of their destination. Sentimental sites are also sonared. If an area has been heavily searched, we may expand the search area, but please keep in mind that accidents tend to happen closer to home and the destination. Let's see here. So Brenda had planned to go to Orlando the day following her disappearance with Mariel. So she disappeared Friday. Saturday, she was taking Mariel to Orlando. They were going to go to Disney World and SeaWorld. Brenda's family said it's uncharacteristic of her to leave without letting someone know where she was going to be going. Scott's automobile theft case was delayed because of Brenda's absence, and some charges were dropped because she was unavailable to testify. Scott was eventually convicted of grand theft auto, title fraud, vehicle identification number tampering, VIN number tampering, possession of an unlawful driver's license, and being a felon in possession of a firearm. He was sentenced to 9 years in prison and 7 years probation. Ultimately, he would serve less than 2 years in prison. Stewart fared much better. All charges against him were dropped in 1995 because authorities didn't have enough evidence to proceed without Brenda's testimony. The divorce between Brenda and Scott was finalized May 1995. Brenda was awarded sole custody of Mariel. Brenda's mother was initially appointed as Mariel's guardian in Brenda's absence, but Scott was eventually awarded full custody. Some investigators believe Brenda left voluntarily due to the stress from the divorce and the trial. Others believe foul play. Brenda worked as a registered nurse in Palm Harbor, 1995. I am a registered nurse by trade. I was initially on the fence for quite a while until I got to thinking about these letters here I'll talk about in a little bit. The weather in April when Brenda disappeared was pretty consistent. The high was 85 during the day, and the overnight low was 70, and there was no precipitation. Let's see here. So when Mariel was 6 years old, she stayed with her surrogate grandparents after she wasn't picked up by her mom. Mariel's father, Scott, was granted telephone calls twice a week and supervised visits with her on Saturdays. John, Dan, and Shirley Danielson at the time resided in Clearwater, Florida. The phone calls were to be held on Tuesday and Wednesday evenings between 7 and 7:30. Visitation on Saturdays was supervised by Debbie Snouffer. Debbie is Jerry's wife, another brother of Scott's. Jerry and Debbie at the time also lived in Clearwater, Florida, about a 20-minute drive or 9 miles from Palm Harbor. I was really touched when I had read that the judge granted Mariel home tutoring instead of returning to the Highland Elementary School. The event was clearly traumatic. Her first grade teacher went to Mariel's home 4 hours a week to help with her homework. The Danielsons met Brenda and Mariel through the Lutheran Church of the Resurrection in Eastlake. The church secretary referred Brenda to Dan and Shirley when she was looking for a babysitter for Mariel while she went to work. Church members distributed flyers along the 1.8-mile stretch from Brenda and Mariel's apartment to the Highland Lakes Elementary School. A psychic, John Monty, asked for a helicopter to search around the apartment. He believed police were close to locating her. John, as well as Mariel's surrogate grandparents, believe Brenda is alive. The apartment is in the Lifestyles complex near Tampa and East Lakes Roads. More precisely, it is 145 Kendra Way. Let's see here. So Mariel's biological grandparents, Grant and Deanne Starr, resided in Steubenville, Ohio. By the time Mariel was 13, she was living with her father, Scott. At the time, Scott worked in Largo and he worked in Largo at his family's boat shop. I have Mariel's information, but that doesn't really matter. Mariel, though, right now, she does have a GoFundMe set up. It is titled Please Help Save Rescued Cockatoo. She has raised $545 of the $1,000 goal. It was activated August 10th, 2022. That was a really sad story, but go to look it up. Please help save rescued cockatoo and help her fund it if you can. Let's see here. Then there was another article. Brenda's parents, Grant and Deanne Starr, placed a trace on Brenda's credit cards and bank accounts. So if it's ever accessed, they're alerted to it. Less than 3 years after Brenda's disappearance, Scott had been released from prison and started over with his life, raising his 9-year-old daughter and planning to marry. Mariel sleeps with a picture of Brenda on her nightstand, or did at the time when she was a child. Grant and Deanne worked in the steel mills in Steubenville, Ohio. She has a younger brother. Brenda has a younger brother, Grant Jr., also goes by Fox. When Brenda was prepping the morning of April 21st, 1995, she was running late, so threw on a denim jumper on over her pajamas and grabbed a spare set of keys because she couldn't find her regular ones. Keep that in the back of your mind. Brenda never claimed the $70,000 from her divorce settlement. Brenda was initially an LPN when she started out up in Ohio. The steel mills employed 3 generations of her family. As layoffs started at the steel mills, the hospital followed suit, and Brenda had to leave town to find employment. Brenda moved to Pinellas County where she was when she was 20, accepting a job offer that would help LPNs become registered nurses. They're still very prominent today in the nursing field. She graduated from St. Petersburg Junior College in 1986 with her nursing degree. Brenda met her best friend Mary there, and she became Brenda's maid of honor and Mariel's godmother. Brenda married Scott in 1986. She met Scott through a friend. Scott graduated from the University of South Florida. He had already had a criminal background. On Scott's birthday in October 1987, Brenda gave him a birthday card from their future daughter, who was going to make her first appearance in June of 1988. However, December 1987, quarrels started between Brenda and Scott. Scott struck Brenda with such force that she had a black eye by the time police arrived. He agreed to spend the evening out of their home to avoid charges. Brenda was working as a psychiatric nurse at a children's hospital. Scott said it changed her. Her co-workers said Brenda was well respected. Her parents were concerned that Scott was becoming involved in illegal activities. In June 1993, Brenda and Mariel moved out. Mariel was 5 years old at the time. Brenda filed for divorce in August. The courts issued her an order of protection to keep Scott away from her home and her work. It came to light that Scott never had formal employment during their marriage, but somehow he always had money, and vehicles would appear in their garage every few days. Scott was arrested in October 1993. Brenda's anxiety grew over the next couple years, and her parents could hear it over the phone in her voice. Brenda discovered her tires slashed, her car would move from one spot to another, and half of her earrings vanished from her jewelry box. She also discovered her door would be open after she locked it. Brenda told the sheriff's office about it, but they couldn't find proof. Brenda stopped answering her phone. They had to page her. Even her family did, from Ohio. After the divorce was finalized, Brenda planned to pay off all her debts and relocate back to Ohio. Easter Sunday, Brenda spoke with her parents for about 3 hours. She told them she was packing up and preparing to relocate to Ohio. She disappeared 5 days later. That was their last conversation. When Mariel's teacher called the police to let them know Brenda hadn't come to retrieve Mariel's surrogate grandparents, Dan and Shirley Danielson, came to get her. One of Brenda's best friends, Sonny Randall, informed Brenda's parents that she was missing. When authorities spoke with Scott, he claimed he didn't know where she was. He was working at his brother's boat shop in Largo, Florida, and he had lunch at Mariel's school. The distance from Largo, Florida to Highland Lake Elementary is 17 miles, approximately 33 minutes. He immediately got a lawyer, and the lawyer would not allow Scott to be questioned. The 2 letters that were delivered to Brenda, one was to Brenda, and the other went to her apartment, to her other friend Randall up there. Randall had since remarried and declined to talk with the news agencies. Investigators determined Brenda purchased the stencils the night before she disappeared. They considered the possibility that she may have sent the letters to set Scott up. The divorce was finalized May 19th, 1995. Scott was released from prison in August 1997, serving less than 2 years. He was engaged to Deborah Blanton. I need to check out if they did get married or not. Deborah worked as a behavioral specialist for the Pinellas County School District. So getting back to the letters here that was delivered up to Ohio, I'm curious how they determined that she was the person who purchased the stencils. I wonder because she would need to find a place that could send out mail overnight to get to Steubenville in time, as well as to her apartment. She would have gone after work. So I'm thinking if they just figured that she purchased the stencils, it's because they were found in her apartment. But she was also missing her regular keys and had to use a spare set. So it would lend itself that the person she couldn't find her keys because somebody had stolen them and planted the stencils and moved the earrings around and all those shenanigans. So I'm not entirely convinced that she brought them. Other questions that I have: did she give any sentimental possessions away? I wondered if she's packing up to relocate back to Ohio. She could have, after she dropped off Mariel, she could have taken some possessions to the church or to Goodwill's, other donation centers around town, so there was less to move back to Ohio. But if there were sentimental possessions that she'd given to family or friends, that would be something significant to know. In general, did Brenda prefer to drive on main roads or back roads? Did she place any recent calls to AAA or to her car insurance provider or carrier? Were there any items that she always carried with her? Water bottle, extra clothes, extra scrubs, food or snacks, and pop brands? Did she have a recent bladder infection or urinary tract infection? If she did, was it a one-time thing or was it chronic? Did investigators look in Scott's garage for Brenda's protege that first night that they went to talk with him? And then how was the divorce settlement proceeds handled? Was it through a personal check, a cashier's check? Was it direct deposited? Did he get to hold on to the money? Was it put into some sort of trust for Mariel when she became of age? And then how is it determined? Oh yeah, I mentioned this. How it was determined that Brenda bought the stencils, and could they have been planted? So I did make a slide of places of interest to help with determining where she might be. Her address was 145 Kendra Way. This Highlands Elementary School is at 1230 Highlands Boulevard in Palm Harbor. Disney World is 1375 East Buena Vista Drive. SeaWorld is 7007 SeaWorld Drive. And her parents and friend are up in Steubenville, Ohio. I was thinking to search the Cow Branch and South Cove that are off of Lake Tarpon, but pretty recently, Exploring with Nug and Adam Brown Adventures sonared the canal and the lake there, so I'm pretty confident she is not there. However, there are other areas to look at there. They would be St. George Lake. John Chestnut Sr. Park has, I think it was 3 boat launches. Salt Lake, Ward Island in the marina there. There's also a causeway to Honeymoon Island State Park, and she could be there. There's water at the Lifestyles Complex entrance. If she was heading back home, she could have fallen asleep or gotten distracted behind the wheel and went into the ponds there right across the street from the entrance. There's Cypress Forest Spray Park, Keystone Lake, Lake Alice, Lake Calm, Mound Lake, Lake Wood, Lake Rogers Park, Church Lake, Echo Lake, Marlene Lake, Thorpe Lake, and Williams Lake. If you'd like to help Brenda's family find their long-lost daughter, sister, mom, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and turn the notifications on to receive progress reports. If you have a few cents for a cup of coffee or two, please consider donating through one of the links in the description box. It'll go toward sonar equipment and other necessities to bring Brenda and other missing loved ones home. The holidays will soon be upon us, and although it hasn't been said to me yet, being reunited with their loved one is one of the greatest gifts these families will receive. Immediate donation links are in the description. Kickstarter and GoFundMe campaigns are coming soon. The video will play out here for just another minute or so you can see the entire search area. If you see something that I missed, please let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and remember that we love you.